Alan Newton was accused of rape, robbery, and assault. The crime happened on June 23, 1984, in an abandoned Bronx building. A 25-year-old woman identified him as the attacker, but this would later be proven wrong. Alan Newton was arrested on June 23, 1984. He went to trial. Despite no physical evidence linking him to the crime, he was convicted and sentenced to 13 to 40 years in prison. Alan Newton's conviction turned his world upside down. For over 20 years, he fought for DNA testing on the evidence. Again and again, the system failed him.
And the exoneration means being officially cleared of a crime. For Alan Newton, that day came on July 6, 2006. DNA evidence proved he had no connection to the crime. After 22 years in prison, Alan Newton was finally free. His exoneration was a victory for justice, but it showed the deep flaws in the system. Today, Alan Newton helps others and fights for criminal justice reform. His story is a powerful reminder to always seek the truth. Alan Newton's journey is one of hope and resilience. Let his story inspire us to create a fair system for everyone.
Is accused of a crime, they have specific rights protected by the Constitution. These rights are crucial to ensure fair treatment within the legal system. To illustrate how these rights apply to an actual case, let's take a closer look at the case of Alan Newton. First, let's clarify the court system in which Newton's case was heard. It was part of the federal court system. The prosecutor in the case, which state attorney represented the state of New York, demonstrating that the legal state authority was behind the prosecution. The New York State Supreme Court criminal held the original jurisdiction, meaning it was the first court to hear the case. Regarding the law enforcement, expecting the New York Police Department had jurisdiction over the state of Alan Newton. Indeed, they were an agency that apprehended him, which illustrates how local law enforcement operates within the realm of state laws.
Trial and post-trial.
Understanding rights in the criminal justice system through Alan Newton's case. Today we'll explore rights in a trial focusing on Alan Newton's wrongful conviction. First, the right is to fair trial ensures an in-parallel trial. Newton's trial was unfair due to flawed forensic evidence. The right to an attorney guarantees legal representation. Newton's defense was ineffective, damaged his case. The right to remain silent, proceed against self-incrimination. Newton maintained his innocence. The right to convict witnesses was less prevalent in Newton's case, where flawed evidence was the main issue. There was a man named Alan Newton. He was accused of doing something really bad, a crime he didn't commit. The people in charge thought he was guilty and gave him a very long punishment. They said he had to go to prison for 25 years to life. That's a super long time, just like forever. Alan had to stay in prison for over 17 years. That's almost 2 decades. He missed seeing his family and friends, but guess what? Alan was innocent. One day, some special science called DNA testing showed that he didn't do anything wrong at all. So the punishment was fair? No, not at all. Alan was punished for a crime he didn't do, and he had to be in prison for a lot of years for nothing. It wasn't right because he should have been free the whole time. His story reminds us that we need to be very careful when figuring it out if someone did something bad, so we don't make a big mistake again.
Welcome to a discussion of the criminal justice system. What's the purpose of the criminal justice system? To protect society, ensure justice, and prevent crime by keeping people safe. And what about punishment? It should deter crime, provide justice, and rehabilitate offenders. Alan Newton's case challenges this as he was wrongly convicted and sentenced to life. Let's discuss key issues in this system. 5 critical issues are wrongful convictions, like Newton's, racial bias, seen in cases like George Floyd, prison overcrowding, police brutality, and inadequate legal representation as a Newton. How does Newton's case highlight these issues? His wrongful conviction is a clear example of a flawed system. It shows the system's failure to provide fairness and justice. Thanks for sharing. The system needs to reform truly its fully purpose.
Alan Newton, a man who faced a wrongful conviction but ultimately found his way to exoneration, along with what he's doing in his life today. Alan Newton was convicted in 1984 for rape and assault, based largely on unreliable eyewitness testimony. This is a problem we often see in wrongful conviction cases, where the memory of the witness can be flawed or influenced by external factors. which is right. For many years, Newton maintained his innocence, but he was sentenced to a long prison term. It wasn't until 2011 that his exoneration finally took place. What led up to that pivotal moment were the advantages in DNA testing that played a crucial role. After diligent efforts from organizations like the Innocence Project, DNA evidence was analyzed, which not only proved Newton's innocence but also identified the actual criminal response for the crime. It's a powerful example of how justice can be served when proper evidence is utilized. Now let's talk about where Alan Newton is today. Yes, following his exoneration, Newton has dedicated his life to advocating for criminal justice reform. He shares stories widely to raise awareness about the issues surrounding wrongful convictions and the importance of accurate evidence in the justice system. On a personal level, he has reconnected with his family after years spent apart. It's great to see that he is focusing on rebuilding those important relationships and supporting his loved ones. In terms of professional life, Newton is involved in various initiatives aimed at educating others about the flaws within the criminal justice system. He emphasizes the need for reforms that prevent such errors from occurring in the future. His experiences and advocacy efforts illustrate how individuals can turn from a challenging past to a motivating future. Absolutely, and Alan Newton not only fights for his own well-being, but also for others who may be facing similar injustices. His story was an important reminder of resilience and advocacy. It's inspiring to see how he has transformed his life. After a traumatic experience, we can learn from his journey and support the efforts to improve ourselves.
Last year, July 6, I was exonerated after serving 22 years by DNA evidence with the help of the Innocence Project, who was able to locate the evidence in my case, have it tested, and the test proved that I hadn't committed the crime that I was sentenced for.